Today I'm gonna give feedback to those who sent me some images, some live comp images that I asked in my previous videos. Hi there, I'm Peter Forsgaard, an Olympus Visionary from Helsinki, Finland. And before we get into the feedback, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell so you won't miss any videos in the future. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up also. My channel is all about getting you to be a better photographer. I made a 2-video series about live comp, and if you haven't watched those, please do. And after that, come back to this video and see what kind of images my viewers sent me. I got images from 10 different photographers. But without further ado, let's get into the Lightroom and see what kind of images I get and what kind of feedback I will give them. And okay, now we have all the images in Lightroom, and here's the first image taken by, I have to check the spelling of his name, who is David Lasiveta. The image is taken in Albany, New York State, in the state of New York, and I really like this image. And as you can see, the exposure is spot on, because you can see the detail in the grass here, and also here in the darker areas of the grass there is some detail which is really good. And here we go. We could actually, what would work a little bit, just to add a little dehaze, and then a little getting the highlights down, so that this area here and this area here wouldn't be so overexposed. As you can see, there's no red flag colors anymore. We could take a little bit back. As you can see now, we got some red flag colors when you add some highlights there. And I really like the road here and the turn over here. You have the S curve over there, which is really cool, and especially these are really nice. The name or the numbers of the roads that are probably on the surface of the road, they look kind of like a three-dimensional, and when they kind of like shine through the light trails. And this is actually a very good example of how to use live comp, because like David said in his email when he sent the image, that the traffic wasn't very heavy, and as you can see on the image, it looks like there's been a lot of cars. But with live comp, it doesn't matter. You can wait for a longer time. This was 9 images and 25 seconds each, so it's like almost, let's say around 4 minutes, the total exposure. But with bulb mode, you could not expose this kind of images for 4 minutes. It would be totally overexposed. But with live comp, you can achieve some light trails even if the traffic is not that heavy. Like as I said, these curves here, and then the light trails, they go a little different ways here. But on this side, there's maybe a little bit too much, and I was thinking that we could see the whole image just like this. And I did a little cropping. Sorry, I should have shown the original image in the first place, and maybe this way would be a little bit more condensed. And I would actually think about the place and wonder what kind of images, maybe with a longer lens, could you crop here or something and get these, because these are really interesting when the cars go over these. But it's a good job, David. I like the image. And then we have a guy called Markus Savolainen from Finland, and this is his image from a lake nearby Helsinki. And yeah, unfortunately this is going to be the next 4 or 5 months in Finland when it starts to get snowy. I personally don't like snow that much, but actually this image is quite cool. And look at the lines from the moving clouds when you're using live comp. And as Markus said in his mail, that this image is a double composite. This one is a live comp image to sky, and this foreground is from another image. This could have been done with the same image, of course. Then this guy here, maybe it's Markus himself, should have been totally still and could not move at all. And maybe it's easier this way to do it. I was wondering about the color of the snow. It's a little bluish. What if we could do this? No, not really. It doesn't look that good. Undo that. The bluish would be better. There's a little bit overexposed here, but it doesn't actually matter at all. We could, if we want, we could do it down. Then I would maybe open up the shadows a bit so you could see the trees here, and then Again, we could go down there, and usually dehaze makes it a little bit more contrasty with the latest version of Lightroom. I think the dehaze works a little bit better than it used to be. Don't go too far with the dehaze because it starts just ripping the image apart, or the pixels apart, if you go too far. And of course we introduced the overexposed a little bit here, but it actually doesn't matter at all. And here's another image by Marcus, and I like this one too. And the same thing here with the clouds. And of course it's winter. Okay, yeah, we'll admit it's going to be there. And on this one too, maybe you could correct the white balance, but of course then it introduces some green, as you can see down here. But let's see what happens when we take this tool and lower the green a little bit. It gets maybe to black and white, which actually this image could work as a black and white image too. And then you could do some more contrast and do some this way and take down the highlights a bit. This could work as a black and white image too. I wonder what this is, a kind of a dock or whatever this is. It sticks out from the ground and it makes kind of some leading lines towards the middle, and then you can, these leading lines comes kind of like against this. It's a different way, and at the same time this goes the same way as the cloud. So this is a very interesting image, and maybe there's some unnecessary stuff in the lower corner of the image. Maybe this would cropping on the image a little bit maybe would work a little bit better. And then we have the second image, or the third image from Marcus, and this is really cool. Look at the sky here. This is something you should really try with the Live Comp to do, because this is very, very, very unique style. It looks like it's more or less like a painting. And here we have a little overexposed, which actually doesn't matter at all, but we could fix it really easily if we want to. And then maybe a little dehaze to do some vibrance here. And I would open up the shadows in the front just a bit to make it a little more light, or a little more white on the front. And when I'm doing this is, of course, you have to remember that this is my opinion on what you might want to do on the image. Doesn't matter, this one is better what I did with the small retouching. It's just my opinion. There's always one truth when you do photography, which I like about it. So all these things that I say about the images are just my own opinions. So don't think them as the only one. And I would maybe check out if I could crop this image a bit, because this is kind of distracting. You could do this, take this out with Photoshop, but to make it a little more condensed with the cropping and have the foreground, the rocks on the foreground. I don't know if these rocks are now too dominant because they are a lot bigger than before, because this is the most interesting part on the image. But this is something you might want to consider, that if this could work, or then if not, then you could just take that away in Photoshop if you want. It's a great image. And then another light trail, which is really common use of Live Comp, and I like the place where you took this image. You have the curvy road going into the horizon, and you have another curve here, and then there's one there and one here, and lots of cars going back and forth different directions. It's really cool. And on this one too, I tried something, and as you can see, to introduce a little bit more black, because this is a little, as you can see, a little gray here, but to do a little bit more black, and then open up the shadows a bit, and turn down the highlights, and maybe do some vibrance a bit. I don't know if this was the same thing that I tried on the image before, but this is what I might want to do, and always try to have the points on here, so you use the whole, what do you call, the whole amount of information that you can get. So try to have the histogram from here all the way, from black to white all the way. So it's usually more punchy, the image, if you do that. But hey, thanks Marcus, great images. This is a Live Comp that was done with light painting, and very well done. And it's Tor Emil Isaksen is from Norway, and he has a very interesting job. He makes guitars, and what's interesting that, as he said in the mail, that he records every guitar he makes with photographs and maybe video, I don't know. And that's really cool. He must have really nice images of guitars, and maybe I can see them sometimes. But what I would do on this image, the composition is really great. You can see this, and then you can really see how the thing is done. It's very informative image. And then, of course, the diagonal settings. This is usually the way, so it's more dynamic when you have a diagonal lines in the, or some kind of leading lines in the image. But what I would do on this one, I would do some more vignetting. This is the original image, and then I would do some vignetting on the image, so that it would kind of like concentrate, the light would be concentrated on here and would fall off from the edges a little bit. Maybe here it's a bit too much, but otherwise I think it makes the image a little bit better. And then to open up the whites a bit to brighten up the image a bit back. And then if you want, you can reduce the highlights a little bit, but not too much. You want to see. And when you lighten up, you don't want to lighten up that much that you lose the details here on the wood, because I think that's very important, because then because it's a product shot and a documentary shot of making a guitar, but you want to see what material this is. So don't overdo it, and this is very important to have the texture of the wood here. But really, really interesting image. Thanks. And then we have this image of lightning, and I'll turn this on so we can see the crop of the image, because otherwise you wouldn't know where the end of the image is. And this kind of image is really typical for live comp, and it's greatly done, because with bulb mode this would be very difficult because of this very light part of the image, which is really interesting. You got some sunlight, and you got lightning, and you got very dramatic looking weather here. And what I would do here is to add a little contrast on the image, and then maybe a little dehaze, not too much so we won't lose the details over there, and then come a little bit back. And then I would open up the shadows a bit. I think it's more dramatic now when you can open up the shadows like this, and you can see the details in the trees. This can be black, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like a framing for the image, and it kind of like leads and makes these look the same. You have the same shape on these than you have these. That's, of course, you could not control how the lightning would be there, so you got very lucky on this one, but it's a good image. And this is something that we all should do next time when there is thunder and lightning, just to try to go out and make some images of the lightning. With live comp it's quite nice to do that. And then we have this really cool image of a car, and George Milanas, and he line painted this image. And live comp is very good on doing some product shots of big products too, because then you don't need huge amount of light and huge big lights like this. Let's say that you would do this with the traditional way. You would need a flash that should be on this side all the way to this side, even maybe this big, because then you could get the lighting in the front, and you could get this nice so-called rim light on the top of the car. This is very essential to have this, because this makes the shape of the car, and it also tells us that it's a shiny surface on the car, which of course it is. And you got a great background. The only thing that I would maybe consider is the color of the sky. Of course, it's a great contrast with the color of the car, but if this could be a little more bluish, I don't know if it would work. We could try that. It might not work on this. Maybe we could do some bluish. I don't know. No, it doesn't work. You're right. George, you're right. This is better. Great job, George. I really like this image. And then we have a star trail from Gilbert Walker. This was taken in Snowmass, Colorado. What I like about this is that it looks a little dark, but when you look at these star trails, you got different colors. So the exposure is spot on, because you still remain and could see the different colors of the stars. And to get it even more is to add a little black there. As you can see, there's plenty of room there to add some white, which makes it a little brighter. And then you do some heavy vibrance, and then you can even get the colors to pop up. And of course, as I said, this is my opinion, and I'm retouching these images to give you suggestions that what I would do. This is not necessarily what you should do. This is just my opinion. And as you can see here, you had some couple of airplanes flying across your image, and it doesn't really matter on those because they are very, very light. But if these lines would be really bright, then maybe the star trail would not be that successful. Next time, Gilbert, when you take a star trail, try to do it in some place where you have some buildings in the front, tree or a city maybe here. But of course, there's always the problem with light pollution when you do this. You need to have quite dark surroundings to make images like this. And the best time to make images is when there's the new moon, when the moon is totally dark. It doesn't reflect any light to Earth, so it makes the dark or the sky look a lot darker, and it's easier. You can see the stars. And of course, when you have a remote location to make these images, but then of course you might not get anything in the front, like a city or something like that. But otherwise, this image is great, and I really appreciate the excellent exposure on this one. And here's another one, a very good example of a good star trail. Here you have the surroundings in front, and then you have this thing here, and you have kind of like a counterweight on the composition. You have the tent, you have the blue color, the yellow color. Only wish that I would have this sky. If this would be blue, I think it would be more powerful, the image. But of course, I can understand this is most like the light pollution, which is kind of not that nice of a color. But I really like this image that you have the tent in the front and all this. And actually, this one is good too. It makes kind of like a otherwise the whole thing would kind of like go out here. Now there is some discipline when you have this here. It's a small thing, but I think it's a really good thing to have. And we could do some, let's see if we could do some dehaze. And I don't know how this would work if you could just change the white balance. This part doesn't work at all, but I like the sky like this. And if you could do a composite so that you have the front from this image and then a little bit bluer sky, and I think this would be a great image as it is already, but it would make it even better. And let's see what happens if we take the highlights a little down, because this is a little bit overexposed there. And let's open up the shadows. It doesn't work that good. But I think, Karol Kepka, you made a very good job on this image, and I hope you continue making images with your Olympus on Live Comp, because you really know your thing. And then we have a image from a nickname called Sulanto Blog, and this one is really a little different from the others. This one was taken handheld and with a compact camera called TJ4, which is a TUF series camera from Olympus. And I think it's great that Olympus put the Live Comp into its compact series of cameras, and because you could use this on adventures, and because the TUF series is waterproof, you can swim with it, you can throw it, you can do almost anything with it. It's like an action cam in a compact body. This one is really very artistic, and it looks like a painting. And what I would prefer is to a bit more contrast. I don't know. I like images that have a lot of contrast, so I would maybe do that a little bit. I don't know, but I like to get a little bit more punchy on the colors. And let's see what dehaze does. Yeah, it does a little bit. Introduces a little overexposed there, but doesn't matter. It's such a small piece. But a really interesting image. And this is something you might want to try also. Try to do some handheld Live Comp images and see what the results are. They might be really interesting or wacky results like this one. But it's worth a try. And okay, then we have Bruce Thames' image from Fireworks. And this one looks really cool. I like the contrast on the black and the red. And then you have these white in the front, and especially these ones are really nice on the sides. It looks really cool. The only thing that I would maybe do on this one, I would try to see what happens if you crop the image. Let's make it a portrait. And we have it a vertical, and let's see what it looks like. And I think it's let's leave those on, because then you could see where the actual image is, because it's so black. It goes here and then there. But I think this would make maybe a little bit better like this, but then just to see the highlights, they won't be blown out. It doesn't really matter because they are really bright, and this bright part here could be a little darker, but otherwise this image is really cool. And let's see what happens if you open up the foreground. Maybe it introduces a little noise, and the color of the foreground is not that nice when you open it up, because of the colors of the artificial light from these. When they reflect from the ground, it doesn't look on this place. It doesn't look that nice. Next time, take images where there's fireworks, if it's possible. Try to make images so that the sky is still blue. But of course, I can understand if the fireworks starts when it's pitch black, then it's impossible to get some detail in the sky. But if there is a firework that starts a little bit earlier, then try to do that, because always nice to see the surroundings a little bit, where the firework is. But otherwise, this looks really good, this image. And then we have Gino Vairo. He's from Australia, but travels a lot, so we have images from different parts of the world. And this one, I believe, is from Australia. And this is kind of interesting image, because it's divided into two different parts. You have the parking lot here with very gloomy and not so nice lights, and then you have this very beautiful lights on the buildings and the windows, and then the star trails, the colors and everything. And it's kind of crazy, the image, but that's why it's very, very interesting to me. And what I would want to do is to concentrate to see on what's on the sky, because there might be some details in the sky, and yes, there are. But of course, it introduces some noise, and which could of course get rid of doing some noise reduction. And of course, the purple colors on the clouds is really interesting. It's a reflection of the neon lights in the sky. And you have some blues here, and then of course the lights. And let's see what happens if you just take a little bit down the highlights, and there's a little overblown there, and then you get a little bit better contrast on the lights here, which are really interesting. You got some different colors here going, and lots of things going on this image. I don't know if it's too crowded, but somehow I find this very interesting. Many times when you see an image and you find it very interesting, you're not really sure what it is. Maybe it's the contrast between the parking lot and the city here. It's well done, really nice. Okay, and here we have another image from Gino Vairo. This one is from Singapore, and this is quite astonishing building. I don't know what it is, because there is some other small city on top of these three high buildings. And what I would do is to straighten up the horizon a little bit so it's straight. What's really nice about this is that all the colors, and I like the thing that there's more red on this. It would have been not that good if these lights would be white. I really like the red stripes in the front, and these green lights are really interesting. I don't know if you could maybe do some work on this and to get these to show a bit more. They're a little bit too dark, but like this one here, these are really cool images. As you can see the lights from the top, and maybe this part also is a bit too bright. I don't know if it helps when we try to. No, it doesn't work really well. No, maybe we won't do that. It won't work that good. But otherwise, it's a bit too bright here. But that's always a problem when you have. You need to balance your light on different parts of the image, and it's always hard in one image to do that. And then we have this image, which is really, really a cool image of fireworks. Here you have the surroundings, and maybe in the front there's a little bit too much going on because you got these white poles, and I would probably make the front a bit darker so it won't interfere too much, like that. I think this would be better. Then you would have your brightest part right here where all the action goes, and this reflection of the bridge is really cool. This actually could make a beautiful image if it would be possible. I don't know if it's possible to get an image that is cropped like this. And of course, I like the sky. There is some detail, and the color of the clouds are really cool. The reflections from the neon lights it makes the sky look really purple, which is really cool. And of course, when you making images of fireworks, you have to be very careful and very concentrated on looking on your screen, so that you can press the shutter button early enough so that the image is not too crowded. And I think you made a good job on this. We got a couple of ones here, and then you got 3 here, but that's it. And then we have the last one. This is Gino also. He had actually 4 very nice images. And this is really cool. I don't know where these light trails comes from. This must be water because there's a bridge. I don't know. And then you have all different kinds of boats going around. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. But anyways, it's really cool. Only thing is that this is maybe a bit too bright. What I would do is to try and see what happens if you just take a slightly the exposure down, just half a stop, and I think that makes a small difference. It's not that bright. And on this one too, you have some details in the sky because of course these lights, and there may be some clouds that are lit by these maybe these are lasers, I don't know, or very bright LEDs. And this is also a very good example of live comp image, because without live comp you could not be able to do this kind of image. And alright, that was the feedback on those live comp images, and thank you very much for every one of you who sent those images. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me because it was fun seeing your images and giving some feedback. But of course, congratulations to you also if you're still here, because it was a very long video. My longest video so far. But it was so much fun that I might do this again sometime with a different topic. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.